Number 9, Circle of Life in Jesus' Name, Chapter 27, Part 2. We ended with Gabe, after having his throat slit the next day. He's now sitting at the table eating with Logan and JoJo and young Eric. Gabe, Logan began, the three of us have always known you. We're a special guy. I haven't known you as long as Joe and Eric, but I remember asking them one time when you were only about 9 years old, who is that kid? And they told me all about you and all about your family. From that time forward, every time I saw you, it was like something strange. It reminded me of something. I reminded you of something? Yes, JoJo said, jumping in. You reminded him of an experience we had back when Logan was only 11 and Eric and I were 12. Gabe finished his food and started on his cupcakes. Okay, he said. Go on. Well, the three of us were on a bike trip up in a canyon, me and Eric. We've always been close, and when Logan came into our lives, we felt an instant bond with him, kind of like we knew he would end up being my brother. We decided to do this prayer thing at the top of the cliff that overlooked the river. The place where you fell off the cliff, Gabe asked Logan. Yeah, but that was a different story, different day. This was before that, young Eric said. So up on this cliffside, we sat in a circle and we prayed, JoJo went on. We prayed and then we meditated, trying to quiet our minds to hear God's voice. And it felt like we were floating. And we felt the Holy Spirit move through us so strong. And then it was like we could see our family, the ones who'd passed. I could see my mother, even though I'd never seen her before. She died when I was a baby, but I knew it was her. And I saw my grandmother, whom I've never seen because she died when my father was only 11. And I saw my great-grandfather, young Eric said. And I saw my grandparents, though I really didn't remember them. They died in a car accident when I was little, Logan said. They came to us to let us know that our family units are eternal, as long as we choose the light over the darkness, JoJo said. The thing is, Gabe, young Eric went on, the feeling we had that day, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like the strongest love we've ever felt in our lives. Like, we all cried. The feeling was amazing, and we craved that feeling. And we've tried to live every day so that we can feel that feeling again, that closeness to God. Gabe smiled. I know that feeling. It's like an extreme rush of joy that comes from being in God's presence. It's like addictive. Once you feel it, all you want is to be in the presence of God and to stand next to Jesus. His light is so strong it fills your whole heart, your whole soul, and it makes you want everyone around you to feel that feeling, because as God's warriors, it's in us to try to save everyone. At Gabe's words, Logan and JoJo bowed their heads and made no attempt to try to hide their tears. And young Eric smiled. We knew you'd get it, Gabe. That's what Logan was talking about when he said you reminded him of something. Whenever you're around, we're reminded of that feeling we had in the canyon that day. You may not realize it, but you have a light about you constantly. That light is why you streaked to the top of the internet. Once people see it, they either can't get enough of it, or they're angered or jealous and want to put it out. Just like Granddad is always saying. But Gabe, you are special. And we want to learn from you, and we want to help you any way we can. Learn from me? I'm a nobody. I'm just a kid. Yeah, I love God. I love Jesus because, like you guys, I felt his love and I want to feel it again. But I'm so much younger than you. I need to learn from you. Eric shook his head. You're not that much younger, only 3 years. Only 2 years younger than my brother Logan. You mean your cousin, Gabe corrected. No, I mean my brother. You see, that day in the canyon, we took a blood oath. We cut our palms and we swore to be brothers, inseparable, loyal, honest. No secrets. We would be there for each other as brothers no matter what goes down in our lives. Gabe smiled. That's cool. I like it. And we want you to be included in our brotherhood, Gabe, Eric said. You mean you want me to cut my hand? They laughed. Nah, that was kid stuff, Logan said. Besides, you shed enough blood yesterday trying to protect Taylor. Well, you don't have to consent to anything, Jojo added. We just want you to know that from here on out, we're your brothers. You can call on us for anything at any time. You can share your innermost thoughts with us, and you will never be judged or criticized. Well, this is cool. I mean, unless you count Jake, who's kind of like a brother to me. I've never had a brother, just lots of sisters. Young Eric nodded. Yeah, I've wondered how it is to have 6 sisters. Gabe smiled. Well, I've never known anything else. My sisters are totally cool, though. Really love them, and being around them actually makes me happy. You see, Logan said loudly, that's what I'm talking about. He could have said what people usually say about how sisters are a pain, make fun of them, make light of them, say what a bother they are. Instead, he talks about his love for them. I mean, who does that? Gabe's face reddened and he shrugged. Well, you guys know my sisters. They're like awesome. They're hot, Eric said. So's your sister, Gabe countered. Young Eric laughed. Touche. So, Jojo went on, my dad says you're going to be an elite. Yeah, well, I'm going to try. You know what Yoda says, Logan said with a grin. Gabe laughed. Yes, I do. He nodded firmly. So I will do. We'll know you make it. Sorry. We know you'll make it, Gabe. We have every confidence in you. Thanks. My dad also says we're going to be hearing from you a lot more because you're going to start a social media ministry, Jojo added. Gabe nodded. He's going to get it all set up for me, and I'm going to just say or do whatever God puts on my heart. Well, remember, we can help. Whatever you need, Jojo said. Aren't you all really busy with your own stuff? I mean, Jojo, I follow you. You're the big Heisman candidate QB for USC. That and school takes up all your time, doesn't it? And you, Eric, aren't you making movies? And you, Logan, aren't you also in school? Jojo nodded. Gabe, a lot of my time is taken up with football and school, most of my time. But it won't always be like that. This is my last year. But for you, Gabe, I'll make it. I'll make time. I'll do whatever God asks me to do. Whatever his will is for me, that's where I'm going. Today, we all felt God wanted us to talk to you, and that's what we did. And yeah, young Eric said, I just finished a movie, and we'll see how it plays out. And I, too, will do God's will, no matter what it is. And yeah, Logan added, I'm in school studying music. We'll just see where that takes me. Still, I have time for you, always. We might even collaborate on some music for your videos. Gabe smiled. Oh, that would be cool. He nodded his head and blinked away some tears and drew a deep breath. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, bros. Y'all have me all choked up. God is doing something right now. He patted his chest over his heart and cleared his throat and drew a deep breath. So, I don't know how you guys are feeling, but I'm kind of antsy, and I need to release some of this energy, and I promised Dan and Jeremy that we'd go out on the beach and play some football. Are you guys up for it? Absolutely, they all said at the same time. Gabe grinned. Cool. So, where are the men? Having another meeting in Granddad's study. Well, I'm going to go interrupt and see if they need a break, too. Yeah, good luck with that. You're braver than we are. Gabe shrugged and headed toward Grandmaster Keno's study, but stopped first in the kitchen. Hey, Cam and Jensen, you guys up for some beach football? You got it. When? Cam asked. Hopefully in about 5 minutes. I'm going to go interrupt the men in the study. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Gabe shrugged. Well, I guess I like to live dangerously. Well, that is apparent, Jensen ribbed. Laughing, Gabe headed down the hall to the study. He knocked, but didn't wait for permission, just opened the door and stuck his head in. Is there a problem? Grandmaster Keno asked him immediately. Gabe smiled sheepishly. No, sir. Sorry to interrupt, but I promised the Davis boys we'd play some football on the beach, and I was wondering if you old men could use a bit of a break and come down and show us young guys what's what. Absolutely, Mark and Joey said in unison. Eric's brows rose, and then he smiled. I guess we could all use a break. Let's do this. Gabe grinned. See you on the beach in 5? Make it 10. 10 it is. He strode back out to the kitchen. Okay, we're set in 10 minutes, he went to tell the others. Cam smiled. The kids got swag. New scene. Lord have mercy, y'all. Would you get a load of that? She waved her hand toward the 16 males on the beach. I mean, that is some serious beefcake. It wasn't what she said that made all the women turn and stare at her. It was who said it. Oh, Shelley giggled. Did I say that out loud? Angel laughed. I couldn't have said it better myself. They all turned back toward the men. There were 16 of them, in different sizes, ages, and colors, all dressed in swim trunks, t-shirts, and athletic shoes, and they had just divided into teams of 8. They were playing shirts and skins, and the skins had all just drawn their t-shirts over their heads and tossed them into a pile near the far end goal line. Lori, Bree, Mickey, Kimmy, and Bella were a little disappointed that their men ended up being shirts, while Shelley and Angel, Jeffy, and Breeze were delighted with their men. The skin team consisted of Eric Sr., Keegan, Jason, Cam, Joey, JoJo, young Eric, and even younger Daniel Davis. The shirts team included Justin and Ricky, and Jeff and Jensen, Mark, Logan, Gabe, and the youngest player on the field, 11-year-old Jeremy Davis. It was amazing. Eric was about to be 70 next week, but he looked like some 30-something guy off of a calendar. The same for Justin, who was closest to Eric's age at 66. How was this possible? It was like this group had found the fountain of youth. Jason at 58, and Ricky at 52, and Keegan at 49 all looked like college-aged kids, and the rest could literally go undercover at a high school. Beach chairs had been brought down and set up on one sideline, and the women sat in a long row with the agent/bodyguards right behind them. Some of the agents sat, they were getting to enjoy the game, while other agents stood, constantly on watch. And they decided that they would switch positions every 15 minutes. They stood as sentries, looking very official in their white polo shirts and their Oakley sunglasses. The game hadn't even started yet when JoJo and Logan, on opposite teams for once, started arguing with each other. And Shelley glanced at Eric, interested to see his reaction, but he was smiling and just shaking his head. Sometimes you just have to stand back and let people work things out on their own. The playing field was a good, wide, flat stretch of wet sand, which wouldn't be there in a few hours. Agent Brown, Jason yelled, toss a coin for us, please. Call it, Brown yelled back. Tails, Cam said. Tails it is. Cam grinned. We'll take it. The other team got ready to kick off. Logan was just going to punt it, but stopped. Hey, Gabe, I'll hold, you kick. Gabe nodded. And when the other team realized Gabe was going to kick it, they backed up. Logan held the ball and nodded at Gabe. Do not kick my fingers. Gabe laughed, moved forward, and kicked the ball way past the other end zone, since it was a much smaller playing field than a normal football field. The other team pointed at Gabe and threatened him. He laughed and shrugged. Sorry, guess I don't know my own strength. The agents watching got a good laugh. Who's got the edge? Agent Trout asked. Well, Agent White began. On Grandmaster Keno's team, there are 2 college football players, JoJo and Cam. And I think young Eric and Agent Tanner also played some football in high school. But on Mr. Lee's team, there are also 2 college players, Mark and Jensen. And Gabe, Logan, and Ricky also played in high school, so they're pretty evenly matched. You want to wager? Agent Trout asked. Probably not a good thing to do right here first day on the job, Agent Brown put in, glancing at his charge, the Brianna Adams. She looked up and smiled at him. Well, Agent Trout said, I'm just going to say, if I was going to bet, I'd put my money on my guy's team. Who's your guy again? Agent Brown asked. Gabe Tanner. The group at large gave a nodding consent. Hold on, Shelley said. Don't count my husband's team out too quickly. The agents all laughed. Yes, ma'am, Agent Shelton, Shelley Keno's bodyguard, agreed. They turned and watched as JoJo, a Heisman candidate last year, fired a frozen rope into the hands of his uncle, Agent Joey Adams, who, known for his speed on the mats, showed he could run just as fast. Still, he was caught and taken down by Ricky, also known for his speed. The next play, Eric Sr. QB'd and tossed the ball to young Daniel. All the men blocked for him, and he almost scored. but was brought down by his own little brother, Jeremy. Next play, JoJo connected with young Eric on the fade. Touchdown. Gabe talked up his team. Come on, we got this. We got a Heisman candidate, too, just a little older. Let's go. At that moment, he glanced over to see Agent Ward carrying a chair down to the beach and Taylor right behind. He smiled, ran over, helped her into the chair, and leaned over her. Are you feeling better? I think so. Good. Well, I'm dirty and sweaty, but I'm going to do this anyway. He kissed her softly. Come on, lover boy, delay of game, Cam called. Gabe grinned at Taylor. I got to go kick some butt. He kissed her again, turned and headed back. Taylor pulled out her phone and started taking pics and video of the hot bodies on the beach. Out on the field, they huddled up. Okay, Ricky said. Jeremy, you ready for this? Yes, sir. Everyone, you know what you got to do. They all nodded. Break, they said loudly, stood back and waited for the kickoff. The Skins team kicked it straight to Justin. Gabe knew they would because Justin was the oldest on the team, but that's okay because they had a plan. Justin ran 2 steps, turned and tossed it to Ricky. He ran a few feet and reversed and tossed it to Jeff. From Jeff, it went to Jensen and then Mark, who ran one direction and turned and passed it all the way across the field to Logan. Stay with me now, Gabe said to Jeremy. Jeremy nodded as he ran alongside of Gabe. Logan turned and tossed the ball back from the field to Gabe, who then handed it off to Jeremy and blocked the rest of the way. Jeremy dodged his brother and crossed the goal line. Touchdown. The other team stood with hands on hips, breathing hard. Gabe laughed and high-fived his team. The spectators were cheering and clapping and whistling. Okay, we see how it's going to be, young Eric warned. You're in for it now. Bring it, Gabe yelled back. Eric smiled. He could not love this family more. Their competitive edge, mixed with love and honor, it stirred the heart, even at a silly backyard pickup game. The women also were enjoying the trash talk, along with the beefcake show. Mark on the shirt team lifted his t-shirt to wipe the sweat dripping from his face, exposing rippling abs for a brief few seconds. Did you see that? Bree said to Bella. Yes, I did. My man, he's still got it. He's definitely a hunk, Bree agreed, looking up from where she played with her nieces and nephew in the sand. Taylor watched with a smile. They were all hunks, she thought, but Gabe was definitely the hottest one out there. She wished he'd take his shirt off. He would eventually, she thought. When the game was over, they'd all either jump into the pool or swim in the ocean. She was looking forward to it. The game went on for some time. The men were hot and sweaty, it being almost June, and the late afternoon sun was blistering. The ladies, too, were perspiring. Lori, Angel, and Shelley finally gathered up the little ones and headed in to get things ready for dinner. It was already after 5, and the tide would be coming in soon anyway. There were too many people to cook for, and the meal would be arriving within the hour from their trusted caterers. The rest of the women toughed it out to the end of the game. Justin's team had 1 touchdown lead, according to Agent Brown's scorekeeping, but Eric's team had the ball. All the guys were done in, sweating profusely, breathing hard, ready to end the torture. Eric, Keegan, and Jason all protected the QB. Daniel, Cam, Joey, and young Eric ran parallel routes. JoJo dropped back and threw the ball high, hoping one of the 4 would come down with it. On the other team, Gabe, Mark, and Logan all jumped high, trying for the interception. There was a great tangle of bodies as everyone came down, all grappling for the ball. And when the dust cleared, the ball rolled away, and 7 guys lay on their backs, gasping for breath. Eric came to stand over them. I call that the last play. We're done. Everyone hydrate, please. Gabe didn't move, but spoke from where he lay on the ground. That would make our team the winners. Of course we are, Ricky bragged. Let's go celebrate. All the guys grabbed a bottle of cold water from the cooler, downed them quickly. Shirts were pulled off. It was the moment the women had been waiting for. Gabe still hadn't moved, though, and Keegan stood over him. You okay, son? Gabe drew a deep breath. Yes, sir. Maybe a little dehydrated. Well, you lost a lot of blood yesterday. Was that just yesterday? It seems like a long time ago. He sat up. Taylor went to him and handed him a bottle of water, which he gratefully accepted, and she sat down next to him. Keegan gave them their privacy and left to wade into the ocean to wash the sweat and dirt off his body. I'd kiss you, but I'm all dirty and sweaty, Gabe said as he gulped down some water. Well, that didn't stop you earlier. He grinned and pushed her down onto the soft sand and kissed her, making sure he made contact with his sweaty body. She pushed him off her. You really are sweaty and smelly. He laughed. I warned you. He forced himself to stand, reached his hand down to her. Come on, let's go up to the house and get cleaned up for dinner. He walked over to grab her chair to carry it back up to the house, but Agent Ward waved him off. I got it. You two go ahead of me. Smiling, Taylor took Gabe's hand and they walked up together. 30 minutes later, showered and dressed, Gabe looked around his room. Apparently, Taylor had made up his bed and straightened up his room before she left it. Sweet girl. He stepped up into the hall and again could hear his father's deep voice talking on the phone in the next bedroom. Gabe knocked softly and opened the door. His father waved him in and held one finger up to let him know he was finishing up his conversation. He obviously had just showered. He was only half dressed, wearing only slacks that weren't fastened yet and a shirt that wasn't buttoned and no shoes, and Gabe stepped all the way in and closed the door. Yes, that'll be fine. Not until Friday. Thanks. Nope, not until I get back. Gabe watched his father as he spoke. He looked tired. It seemed he was always working. We'll go over that too. Roger that. He ended the call and looked up. Hey, son, you okay? Yes, sir. I just got cleaned up and need to go find Jeffy or Lori to put a fresh bandage on my neck. Come here, let me see it. Gabe stepped forward and lifted his chin. Keegan studied it a minute. It actually looks really good. It's only been about 24 hours and it's already healing. It's amazing. Gabe smiled. That's cool. When that vision thing happened in the kitchen, I felt this tingling going up my neck like I was being healed. Do you want to talk about what you saw in your vision? Not yet. I need to write it all down and get it straight in my head. Well, you know I'm always here for you when you want to talk about it. I know, Dad. So, how's Mom? Have you spoken to her lately? Actually, yes, just before that last phone call, who was Agent Dalton, working on a tricky case. Your mom is okay. Not great, but okay. This pregnancy is hard on her. Does the doctor say she's okay? Yes, just having a lot of morning sickness. Dad, if we need to get home, let's go. We're heading home on Friday morning. Yeah, Agent Trout told me, and I'm surprised. Why are we staying so long? Well, that's only 2 more days, and I thought you'd be happy to get more time with your girlfriend. Well, I am, but if Mom needs us, Taylor would understand. Mom is okay, and I have some loose ends to take care of while I'm here. Okay, but Dad, you seem tired. You're always working. He gave a soft laugh. I'm a little tired, but there are a lot of people depending on me. Not just your mom and sisters, but all those people who work for me and their families, and our friends and neighbors and you and the people here. Things have to get done. I have people to take care of and people to protect. Gabe suddenly threw his arms around his father and hugged him tight. Keegan was surprised by the gesture. He hugged his son. What's this all about? He asked softly. Dad, you take care of everybody. You're so strong and dependable, but, who takes care of you? It seems like, I see you standing on a football field, facing some big hulking team, like when we played the Townsend Titans, only you're facing them all alone. Keegan smiled. Well, that's a pretty good analogy, son. Are you saying you're worried about me? Well, I don't know if I'm worried. I'm just feeling you. Keegan nodded. Well, thanks for that. But let's go a little further with your analogy. First, as I'm standing on this field, I'm wearing my pads, right? Which, since this is a life analogy, is the full armor of God. And I have the best coach, which is God. And he's constantly calling in plays and giving me directions. And second, I'm not alone in this world, Gabe. I have my family and friends who, in this analogy, would represent my teammates. Your mom, she's my center. She takes very good care of me. She's strong and dependable, too, like you say I am. And your sisters are also strong and dependable. And then there's you, son. You're truly becoming a man, and you help me more than you know. And I feel sure that I can hand the ball off to you, and you'd find a way to score. And Gabe, I'm grateful for you and this little show of love and support. I do love you, Dad. And I love you too, son. Let me ask you, when you're all suited up and huddled on that football field with your teammates and the coach surrounding you, do you feel alone or afraid? No, not at all. You're kind of psyched up, right? Stoked, yeah. And if you're a little out of breath from the last play and you know you've got to cover the receiver again, what do? Suck it up and dig deep? Right. So that's how I face each day. I dig deep, even when I'm tired. But I'm good because I have my coach and my teammates all around me, and I want them to know that they can depend on me to do my job. And I know I can depend on them to do theirs. Gabe stepped back and sighed. He nodded. He took a moment. You sound a lot like Grandmaster Keno. Well, he and Ricky and Jason have been a huge influence on me. Do they know that? I'm not sure. But maybe I should take the time to let them know. Gabe smiled. Cool. So, good talk. Are you coming down to dinner? Keegan chuckled. Yes, I'll be right there. Gabe started toward the door but stopped. Oh, Dad, I wanted to tell you something Taylor said to me that I thought I should pass on. Shoot, Keegan said as he buttoned his shirt and tucked it in. Well, she's pretty scared. She says this Dr. Black dude is a high genius billionaire and was able to figure out how to kidnap her grandparents, so she's not feeling very safe. She thinks Black might know something that we haven't thought of, and she's scared he's going to get her. I hate that she's feeling that way. Keegan nodded thoughtfully. Well, I'll need to pass that on to her father. I don't want her living in fear. When you interrupted our meeting earlier, we were trying to go over every scenario, trying to think of every situation to make sure that doesn't happen again. I believe that if we follow protocol, no exceptions, we should be okay. Gabe nodded. I trust you guys, and I trust God, but there's this other side that is also pretty scared. Sorry. Let's see. I trust you guys and I trust God, but there is this other side that is also pretty scared that something could happen to Taylor. I don't know what I'd do. I keep seeing that guy punch her in the face inside my head, and it's like, it makes me feel sick. Which is it, son? Choose which thoughts you'll dwell on. You can't serve two masters. Are you going to trust God or not trust God? Gabe nodded, thinking of what his father just said. Yes, sir. Got it. Let me finish dressing and I'll be down. You go get your neck patched up. Yes, sir. New scene. It's May 29th, Wednesday morning, at the Alley Creek Shooting Range, Camp Pendleton, California. Agents Trout, Ward, Winston, Penning, Landry, and Wyatt, the agents assigned to watch over Gabe, Taylor, JoJo, Logan, young Eric, and the Davis boys, respectively, were blown away by what they were seeing. They'd heard all about this young man, Gabriel Tanner. Some of them followed him on social media. They all knew in detail about his abduction. They'd all seen him perform at the Mini Mart in person. They knew he was like a magnet. People were drawn to him. But when they'd met him yesterday, he seemed like a normal kid, if one were to leave out the episode in the kitchen where he'd had some sort of spiritual trip. But today, here at the shooting range, he was giving them a glimpse of a superb marksman and a superb instructor with a high intellect and a level of confidence as if he were a seasoned sniper. Logan had been having some problems hitting the target hard. Finally, Gabe moved forward, took the gun, aimed, fired 3 shots, widening the same hole in the target. He gave it back to Logan and spoke to him about the position of his trigger finger and watched as Logan adjusted and hit the bullseye. Gabe then simply stepped back, as if he hadn't just done a remarkable thing. The on-duty agents weren't the only ones impressed. Joey and Jeff, both considered expert marksmen by Ameritech, were both awed by the young man. So far, Gabe had helped everyone who'd come to shoot this day. Ricky, young Eric, Logan, JoJo, and the 2 Davis boys. When Joey and Jeff were shooting, Gabe didn't say anything, so Joey asked him if there was anything they could change up. Gabe shrugged. Not really, sir, but when I think I have it all down and perfect, I add speed to the mix. Like, can I reload faster? Can I aim quicker? Can I pull the trigger faster? Can I switch targets faster? Like, you're already pretty fast. How can you go faster? Well, you tell me how. How can I go faster? Gabe smiled. Well, competition always improves speed. We can have a little competition. Lay bullets, empty mags, guns on the table. How fast can you load the gun and kill 3 targets? 2 bullets each, and then 1 last shot to the 4th target, then drop the mag, empty the chamber, and lay the gun down. Okay, you're on. But since you haven't had your turn yet, you warm up by demonstrating the drill. Okay, but wait, Taylor, you haven't gone yet. Do you want to take your turn now or wait until after this little competition? She smiled sweetly. I'll wait. He nodded. Set the table. I only need 7 bullets to complete the drill, but part of the drill is to fill that mag, so fill it all the way. He stood back. Let's have 2 timers. Jojo and Logan got out their phones and stood ready. You start as soon as I move toward the table and stop the moment the gun touches the table at the end. He took a breath, shook his arms loosely by his side, and stepped forward. His fingers worked nimbly, hand-loading the bullets into the mag. In no time, he'd popped the mag into the gun, chambered, aimed. 2 shots, 2 shots, 2 shots, 1 shot. Dropped the magazine, racked the slide to enter the chamber, and laid the gun on the table. He turned. How'd I do? I got 53 seconds, Jojo said. I got 54, Logan said. Gabe frowned. The other men were awed. That was pretty darn impressive, Jeff said. Danny boy, Jeremy, how'd y'all like to be able to do that? That was very cool, Daniel said with a grin. Well, it's not my best time, but maybe I'll do better now that I'm warmed up, Gabe said. He looked around. Who's going next? Ricky went next. He fumbled a bit loading the magazine. His time ended up being 1 minute and 38 seconds. Young Eric took his turn. He beat his dad at 1 minute and 31 seconds. Logan got 1 minute and 48 seconds. Jojo got 1 minute and 58 seconds because he dropped 2 bullets on the ground. Joey got 1 minute and 11 seconds. And Jeff got 59 seconds. Gabe smiled. Good job, guys. Your turn was a warm-up, Jojo said. You go again. Gabe nodded and set the table, stepped back, drew a deep breath, shook out his arms, and stepped forward. He zoned out, focused, and when he set the gun down, the guys were again awestruck. 38 seconds, Jojo yelled. Gabe smiled. Oh, that's my best time ever. That was a freak show, Jeff said. Well, to be honest, it's not realistic. It's not. If you were like out on a mission and had to reload fast, you would have several magazines already loaded. You wouldn't have a box of loose ammo lying around. So next time, let's do it with change out mags for each target or something like that. Sounds good, Joey said. We'll all work on it, so next time you're out here, be ready for some real competition. Gabe grinned. I'll look forward to it. I came up with this loading the mag scenario after watching some movie where the person was in big trouble and was so nervous he couldn't load his gun. So I decided to do an experiment and see how hard it would be. My first time was like over 2 minutes, so you guys all beat me. Cool, young Eric said. That means there's hope for us. The men laughed. And the other thing we didn't really look at was how accurate we were, Gabe went on. So next time, we'll take that into consideration. Points for speed, points for accuracy. Gabe looked at the 6 agents sitting there, then back at Joey. Would it be okay for these guys to take a turn if they feel like it? Joey nodded. Go for it, guys. I'm interested to see how you do. Oh, Gabe said, I didn't mean to put them on the spot with their boss man. Joey grinned. Well, I did. Agent Wyatt, step up. While all 6 agents took a turn, Gabe sat next to Taylor and took her hand and kissed it. Sorry. They all looked kind of left out, so it felt right to invite them to try. Why are you sorry? I love that you did that. I love that you show compassion for other people. Even when it means I wasn't thinking of you having to wait even longer. Well, the fact that you just said that means you thought about it, but you thought I wouldn't mind, and you were right. See how well we understand each other? Everyone thinks we're too young to know if we're really in love. Even you think that, but I know. Gabe smiled and touched her cheek and turned her face toward him and kissed her softly. Right at this minute, I'm crazy in love with you. She giggled. The 6 agents averaged around 1 minute and 40 seconds, and then it was Taylor's turn. She went through her usual practice routine. Gabe only had to correct her a few times. Like Logan, she was having a little trouble with her aim, and he stood behind her and put his hands on hers, his cheek next to hers. Not because she really needed him to, but because he liked the position. It was how they'd first become aware of each other. He spoke softly as he corrected her position, kicking her legs farther apart, pushing her right shoulder forward, and placing his hand on her right hip and pushing it to the left to center her. He jumped back, though, when he heard Taylor's father clearing his throat, and he realized his hand was more on her backside than her hip. Sorry, he mumbled. His face reddened as he heard soft laughter from the spectators. Taylor did a great job for only having been shooting a handful of times now. Gabe asked her if she'd like to try the competition and smiled when she said yes. How about me and Daniel and Jeremy, she said, winking at Gabe. Cool, Jeremy said with a big smile. The men watched and helped and explained exactly what to do and not do, since the kids' safety was foremost in their minds. And using their 22s, the three accomplished the exercise. The boys both had times around 4 minutes, and Taylor's time was closer to 5. Still, it gave them something to work on. And as the group started packing up, Agent Trout asked Gabe, "Are we still meeting down on the beach?" Yes, sir. If you still feel like it, I'm always game to learn. Well, with that attitude, kid, you're going to go a long way very fast. I hope so, Gabe said. He thought of everything that had happened over the past few days. It had only been a few days, but seemed like a lot longer. Monday, they had arrived and someone tried to kill him and take Taylor. And they'd taken a trip in an ambulance and spent time in a hospital. And Tuesday, they'd had a big family meeting, then a meeting about his life goals, and then a football game on the same beach where his and Taylor's blood had spilt the day before, and where a man had died at his father's hand. And then a giant family dinner with the keynotes, which was always entertaining and educational. And at that dinner, Agent Jason Lee had discussed what they'd found thus far. Dr. Black's cell had been raided. They'd found a stash of cell phones, money, and contraband. He'd been put into solitary confinement until Payne could be located. Of course, he denied ordering a hit on Gabe or ordering Taylor's kidnapping. He denied being in touch with Payne, but the cell phone told a different story. Using the phone records, they were able to find where Payne had been staying, a rental property near Little Corona Beach, which was only 6 miles north of the Keno estate. The place was raided, but Payne had already left. Payne, like many other violent criminals, had been released from prison during the pandemic. Ameritech and FBI spoke to people at the Lost Dragon nightclub and got nothing, but were able to pull video and have current images of the man, which Jason said would be sent to each person's cell. They were to study it and commit it to memory. Jason would keep them posted as they learned more. Gabe thought about the fact that there was a hit on him. He needed to talk to his dad, who hadn't come today. He was with Jason working on the case. But Gabe wondered if maybe he shouldn't go home. Would he be putting his family in danger? Does his being near Taylor put her in danger? Or does being near Taylor put him in danger? It was weird thinking that somebody actually wanted him dead. It seemed to be a theme lately. And then the words came into his head. Where there is light, the dark forces gather to put it out. Trust me. Gabe's eyes misted. He nodded his head heavenward, letting God know that he'd heard the message. He turned when Taylor placed her hand on his shoulder. Are you okay? She asked. He dropped the gun bags he'd gathered and pulled her close into a giant hug and held her tight for several seconds. I'm good, he whispered. I'm grateful you're okay. You're here, alive and well. He put his hands on either side of her face and tilted it up to look deeply into her eyes. I love you, Tay. Just in case anything happens to me, I want you to know that. He kissed her fiercely. Young Eric, who'd been watching and listening, glanced over at his father, who had also been watching. His father frowned, and young Eric wondered what he was thinking. He glanced around him and realized everyone was watching. It was Agent Trout who spoke. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, young man, or should I say, Agent Tanner. I'm not even close to being an agent. You will be, I guarantee it. It happened fast, as if to prove what the agent just said. Before Gabe even knew what was going on, all 6 agents plus Joey and Jeff moved quickly, forming a circle around the others, guns drawn as 2 armed men approached their booth. Everyone knew that you don't enter into the space where other people are shooting. There was a walkway that ran behind the long line of staging areas, and you stayed on the walkway until you get to your assigned area. And the agents had seen one of these men walk by a few times now. The 2 men dropped their rifles on the ground and drew their hands in the air. Whoa, one man said. We didn't mean any harm. We just saw Ricky Keno, and at the word, several agents holstered their weapons. The other man continued. We saw Ricky, and then we noticed his kids were here, and then we saw Gabe Tanner. That is Gabe Tanner, right? Yes, Joey answered. And you two, you're Joey Adams, and you guys are a big deal in our household. I've been taught I've even taught some of my Sunday school classes using the Keno family as an example of how to live. The rest of the agents holstered their weapons. Ricky stepped forward and extended his hand and smiled kindly. Sorry about the show of force. We've had some threats lately. The men shook hands and nodded. We heard. We should have thought to speak before we approached. We just got excited. My wife and daughters are going to go bonkers when I tell them who we saw today, and we were hoping to get a few autographs for them, and us. Ricky grinned. Whose autograph do you want? All of you, one man said. The other man explained. Like, my daughter just loves Taylor and Gabe. They're all she can talk about. And my son follows young Eric's career, and JoJo's football, and Logan's music videos. And my wife loves your wife so much, though she would leave me for you in a second. Everyone laughed, but Ricky sighed and nodded. The two men held out their hats and a black permanent marker, and Ricky took one of the caps to sign. And you guys just happen to have a marker with you? No, but I went back to my truck to get one. Ricky, young Eric, Taylor, Gabe, JoJo, Logan, and Joey all took a minute to sign the two hats. One man nodded and thanked them profusely. Hey, he said to Gabe, tell your father he's my hero and my brother. You're a Marine? Gabe asked. Yes, and your dad is a great man. Thank you, sir, Gabe said, shaking his hand. The other man shook Ricky's hand again. My name is Ronnie Clark, and I'm the youth pastor at Big Canyon Church of Christ. He handed him a card. If you'd ever like to visit us, it would mean a great deal to the kids. Our ministry reaches out to a lot of underprivileged kids, and we bust them in from all over. For you to address the class, it would go a long way. Ricky nodded. I'll see what I can do. I know it's a big ask. Some guy comes up to you randomly at a gun range. Nothing is random, Ricky said firmly. When would you like us to come? He laughed. Is this Sunday too soon? Ricky glanced at Joey. Well, here's the deal. I'll shoot for this Sunday, but due to security reasons, we won't be able to let you know for sure until about 30 minutes before we arrive. Ronnie nodded. Well, we'll hope and pray you can make it. If you come, will your family come too? Ricky grinned. If we come, we'll come in force. That includes Brianna. But that also includes security. Like I said, we've had some threats. Understood. Hope to see you. New scene. It's May 31st, 12:30 a.m., Friday morning. South Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. Taylor sighed contentedly as she turned over in her bed. When she heard breathing, she smiled. Gabe, how did you get into my room? She heard a slight laugh and felt him move and felt his hand on her face and felt it cover her mouth. And when she couldn't breathe, she tried to move his hand, but she couldn't, and she began to struggle. You're mine, a voice said. Definitely not Gabe's. You belong to me. You tried to give yourself to me once in place of your auntie, so now we'll make that happen. Taylor tried to scream but couldn't get it out. She rolled, struggled, fought, and finally fell out of her bed, making a loud thump on the floor. She sat up and screamed and tried to make it to her door, which burst open. Young Eric slammed the door open and looked down to see his sister on her knees. He knelt down and took her in his arms. I got you, Tay-Tay, he said loudly. Wake up, hon, I'm here. Ricky then made it to the door, breathing heavily. Bree also arrived. Ricky frowned at her and then turned his attention back to his daughter. Taylor, Ricky said calmly. She looked up. Daddy. She left her brother's embrace and went into his arms. Daddy, it was so real. He was here. He said I belonged to him. Daddy, I'm scared. I am so scared. Please don't let him get to me. He held her close. I won't, baby girl. You're safe. I know you're safe, honey. But how do you know? How can you be sure? Do you realize the level of security we have on this house right now? If you or anyone even touches the window at night, what happens? A very loud alarm sounds. Right. But no one can even get near the windows because of the motion sensors. And no one can even approach the house if they were to get past the gates. But no one can get past the gates. And we have 2 agents on the property outside and 1 inside, 24/7. So where's the inside guy right now? Did he not hear all the commotion I just made? He did hear. He just went back downstairs to check in and let them know we're okay. He sat her away from him as he could, so he could look into her eyes. But all that is not why I know. It's because your mom and I have prayed over you over this whole situation, and we both had a feeling of peace come over us. God is real, baby girl. Do you believe that? She nodded. Well, then we have to trust him. We do everything we can to help ourselves, but then we have to trust him. He's let your mom and I know that you're safe. Remember, he warned us before. He would warn us again. Taylor sniffed. I wish Gabe could be here with me. I wish he could sleep with me. Ricky blew out a breath. Well, that's not gonna happen. I'm not talking about sex, Daddy. I just don't want to sleep alone. Gabe is not going to sleep with you, Taylor. He has his own path to walk, and that doesn't include him staying here in this house. If you're afraid to sleep alone, we'll blow up an air mattress and put it in our room. Would you like to do that? Yes. I'm too afraid to stay in my room at night. Okay, sweetheart. Tonight, just come and sleep with your mom and I. Tomorrow I'll dig out the air mattress, and I promise I'll keep you safe. She wiped away her tears. Thank you, Daddy. She smiled up at her brother. Thank you, Eric, for getting here so fast. You're welcome, he grinned. You scared the crap out of me. Taylor grabbed her pillow and headed down to her parents' bedroom. And Ricky turned to Eric. Thanks, son. It's good to know I can depend on you. Eric nodded. Well, thanks for knowing that. I've known it a long time. Good night. Night, Dad, Mom. Night, honey, Bree said sweetly. Ricky turned to his wife and put his arms around her. Do you remember all those years ago when that red-headed Roy guy broke into Dad's house and I told you to go to your mom's room and stay and you disobeyed me? Bree raised her chin defiantly, which made Ricky smile. Yes, I remember. Did you hear me tonight when I distinctly told you to stay in our room just before I ran out the door? I do believe I heard you say something silly like that. Do you think I said it simply because I wanted to order you around? She frowned. I guess not. Why do you think I said it? She sighed. Because you were worried about me. Because it's my job to keep you safe. I was perfectly safe. But we didn't know that, did we? If I'd come up here to have to fight with an intruder and had to worry about you two, it could mean the difference between a good outcome and a very bad outcome. But that's not what happened. That's not the point. Okay, I know and understand what you're saying because we've had this discussion more than once. Yes, we have. But if you think I'm going to cower in my room while someone is in our home trying to hurt my baby girl or my son or my husband, then you are sadly mistaken. He sighed, then smiled. Sweetheart, I love what you said, but think, how could you best help the situation? We have a plan in case something happens. Follow the plan. Please. Did you grab the gun from your nightstand? Did you get your phone? Or did you simply follow me up here? She frowned. Baby, I love you. I couldn't bear to lose one of you. You've never been interested in learning self-defense, and that's okay. I'll protect you. But you have to cooperate, please. And you know what? I insist that next time we go shooting, you come with us and brush up. Bree sighed. Okay, and I'll try to do better. It's just that I'm not one to sit back and take orders. Oh, how I know. Your feistiness is one of the reasons I fell in love with you. He smiled. Tell me this. Do you take orders from your director when you're making a film? Well, of course. But he knows what he's doing and I don't. He knows the bigger picture, so I trust him. Ricky stood silently, his brows raised. Finally, he spoke. Go over those words again and tell me why I don't get that same consideration. I'm a grandmaster in 5 different disciplines. I've been trained in survival techniques and in staying calm and thinking rationally under any circumstance, and not just trained, but tested many times. Do I have to go over my complete resume to get the same respect from you that you give to your directors? Bree sighed. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I have enormous respect for you, Ricky. I'll try to do better. He nodded, smiled, and kissed her. That's my girl. New scene. May 31st, early Friday morning. Ameritech Private Airport, Long Beach, California. Yesterday was the best day, Gabe. The dance we choreographed, I mean, it was fire. You were fire, Gabe returned. I could barely keep up. I'm glad we were able to get it done. I'm supposed to keep doing more videos. Some about dance, some about sports, some about shooting, some about martial arts, and some about our beliefs. So I'm glad I have that one ready. When are you going to post it? Well, your Uncle Mark says to wait until he has my website and social media stuff ready. He's going to hire someone to do it for me and then get Isla to help launch me. Hire someone? Shoot, I could do it for free. He says it's a full-time job. He shrugged. It's not my forte for sure. But he says we don't have to know everything, and that's why we hire specialists. Well, let me know when you post it. Of course. He sighed. Well, here we are, saying goodbye again. Taylor bit her trembling lip. I hate saying goodbye to you. It's so hard, and it makes me feel so lonely. Her eyes welled with tears. Please don't cry, Tay. We're only talking like 11 days. If you don't count today, because I'm seeing you right now, and you don't count the day you arrive, because I'll see you then there are only 11 days we won't see each other. And I'll call you every day if you want, and you can call me anytime you want, since we're not in school. It's going to go by really fast. He used his thumbs to wipe at her tears. Where's that strong, confident girl, huh? She nodded. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm really not the type to be all dramatic and all weepy and creepy. He nodded. I think I get it. What happened on the beach, this Dr. Black dude, is kind of freaking you out. It is me too. But I'm not afraid, and I don't want you to be. I know your father's doing everything he can to keep you safe. I mean, he's even hired a second bodyguard for you now, which I think is great, and I really feel like you're safe. Black had his chance to take you, and it didn't happen. You're good, Tay. Please don't worry anymore. I'll try not to, she said, offering a brave smile. 11 days, huh? 11 days. Now kiss me before I have to board. She lifted her arms, interlocked her fingers behind his neck, and lifted her face to him. He kissed her gently, pulled back, smiled at her, then kissed her again, stronger this time. She sighed. Have any of your girlfriends ever told you that you're a good kisser? He frowned. Who are you judging me against? She giggled. Oh, don't worry, they were just little boys compared to you. Does your father know about them, and how many are we talking about? He doesn't know about all of them, she said slyly. He frowned. But that guy in the first grade who stole a kiss on the playground doesn't really count, she added. Gabe, gotta go, son, Keegan called. Yes, sir. He kissed her one more time, picked up his bags, smiled, winked, turned, and boarded the jet. And that is the end of chapter 27.